Hey guys, I did not write this story. It is based on a story that a person on Reddit experienced and gave everyone permission to use. Um, so yeah, I didn't write it. I have a bit of a cold, so if I sound a little funny, that's what's up. And there is a cat meow in here once or twice. I'm sorry, I tried to get it. I couldn't help it. This house possessed. I've always been quite adventurous, so it stands to reason that when I had spare time alone, I would hop in my car and go exploring. I especially liked finding old abandoned homes, and there are a lot of them in Colorado. My husband hated the fact that I would do this completely alone and was always afraid that I would get into trouble. When I saw a no trespassing sign, it was an invitation, so it's no surprise that I would often end up where I wasn't supposed to be. One day, while out driving down old country roads, I happened upon an old abandoned farmhouse, so I pulled into the driveway. There was no garage or carport, so my car was in plain sight. The old red brick farmhouse was all boarded up, but around the side of the house, there was an opening where one of the boards had fallen off. So, of course, I scrambled on up and crawled through. I found myself in a front bedroom. Of course, it was rather dark, but there were cracks in the boards that let in just enough light that you could easily maneuver through the house without too much difficulty. Imagine my surprise to find everything still in the house untouched. Near as I could tell, it had been empty since sometime in the 60s, so it had been sitting in this condition for at least 20 years. I found this really strange, that no kids had gotten inside to party, and there was no evidence of any homeless people living in there, especially since this house could be easily seen from I-25, a major highway that goes through the heart of Denver. Denver had a very large homeless population, just like all big cities have. The living room had all the furniture, lamps, tables, and the bedroom had all armoires and iron beds. Everything left in the kitchen, along with home canned goods, spices, dishes, everything still there. In the bedroom where I entered, there was a portable toilet, and I wondered if somebody had been sick. I got a feeling that was the case. I spent hours in there just looking through pictures and postcards of the family that had lived there. There was a ton of Catholic paraphernalia, too. You know, crucifixes on the wall, rosary beads, and the like. It was fascinating to me, and I was trying to figure out why this family had left the house the way they did. And I was so surprised when I came out how many hours had passed. But I had chalked it up to being too involved and losing track of time. I'd never worn a watch, so it wasn't hard to believe this could happen. This place wasn't too far from my house, so I would go there as often as I could and wander the grounds, investigating the sheds and the outhouse. The root cellar under the house was loaded with old canned goods and rotted root vegetables. The smell, of course, after all this time was non-existent, so really it wasn't that bad. I kept wondering what had happened there. I did not know that the family that owned this home lived just around the corner on the same street. How I found out was they caught me there and ran me off. I watched them as they left and saw where they went. Now, when I go back there, I'd look to see if there was anyone home before I'd go in. So week after week, month after month, I would go back. There was so much to explore. Time after time, they would catch me there, and they'd always run me off. I always wondered why they never called the police on me, but they never did. I think they knew I was being haunted, although I was not aware of this at the time. Later on, after I had been exploring for a number of months, I began to find myself there with no recollection as to how or when I had arrived. But every time I went in, hours upon hours would go by, and every time I came out, I was always surprised at how much time had passed. I would think I was in there for maybe 2 hours, but then I'd find out that I'd been there at least 6, and it would be dark. There was no electricity, so it was almost pitch black. I was completely taken over, and the house had gotten into my mind, so much that I thought I wanted to buy the house. So I talked to my husband about it, never revealing to him that I had secretly been going there for months. I kept it a secret from everyone, even my best friend. I did some research and tried to find out anything I could about it. I did find out that it was built in 1910, but I couldn't get any other information. I even tried to talk to the people that owned the house, but they would never tell me anything at all, and would just try and run me off again. I never damaged anything, and I left everything always the way it was. I never took anything from the house until one day I was drawn to an old green woven clothes hamper in very good condition, and since I needed one at home, I took it. No one would miss it, right? Now I had made a connection. Bad move. Soon after I took this hamper, I had a dream. Or was it a dream? A figure in a dark hooded cloak approached me and said, "Can I come into you and finish living out the rest of my life?" Confused, I replied, "If I do, then when do I get to live out the rest of my life?" And then the figure disappeared, and I woke up. Creepy, huh? Some hooded figure wanted to possess my body and take over my life. I do believe that the hamper was the catalyst for this event. I should not have taken anything. Thou shalt not steal. There's always a reason for his commandments. The next time I went to the house, it had been completely demolished. The house and all of the outbuildings were gone. There was absolutely no trace that anything was ever there. Not a brick, not a board, not even the foundation. The root cellar had been filled in completely. I was devastated and wondered how and why did they do this. The house was safe and it could have been sold. I'd been going there 2, maybe 3 times a week for months. I have no idea how this was accomplished so quickly. I don't know if my dream happened during the destruction or what, but I've always thought that by taking the hamper, whatever was haunting that house latched onto it and made it possible for the spirit to come to me. for reasons I can't explain, I kept that hamper for a number of years, and I was always haunted in my mind by whatever had happened there. As long as I held on to it, I could not release myself from the spirit that inhabited that house, although I never did have another dream such as that. I finally did rid myself of it. I got rid of the hamper because I knew as long as I hung on to it, I'd never be free. The thing is, I can't remember how I disposed of it. But once I did, I was finally released. But it had been many years that this had gone on. I'm a lot more careful now where I go, and I will stand outside and take the time to size up the spirit or spirits connected to these places before entering. Please, if you're out there exploring and you find a place like this, don't take anything, as you don't know what you're bringing back home with you. And if you have taken anything from a house like this, get rid of it now.